We're going to talk about Captain America and the best moments that Cap has had in the MCU in celebration of Independence Day. Today's 4th of July, so we're going to be all patriotic and whatnot, and just talk about one of our favorite Avengers, Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, aka Skinny Steve, aka Chris Evans. 4th of July, fireworks are going off, red, white, and blue. We're going to talk about the Captain America, top moments of Captain America in the MCU. I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I think one of the best Captain America moments that really defines Steve was at the beginning of the First Avenger when they were in the training camp and Tommy Lee Jones is talking with Dr. Erskine, and he's like, "You brought me an asthmatic here. If we stick him with a needle, it'll go right through him." And Tommy Lee Jones was great at that movie, by the way. Yeah. And Dr. Erskine tells him it's not about who's stronger, it's not about who's bigger, it's about who's brave, like what's inside. And Tommy Lee Jones' character, I forget the character's name, but he's like, "Listen, man, soldiers are going to win this war, being brave, all that good stuff." He grabs a grenade, tosses it, and everyone scatters, right? The only person that stood around was Skinny Steve. And this was before he had, the super soldier serum. He jumps on top of that grenade, and he's just like telling everybody to leave. Go. And everybody's just looking at him. And I just love that little comedic moment where he's like, "Is this a test?" And I thought that right there is really what set Steve Rogers apart, right? In Avengers, Tony Stark tells him, "Anything special about you came from a test tube." And we know that's not true. We know that Steve has always been the heart of the Avengers, of the MCU.
I agree. That was one of the first scenes I was like, that whole movie, man. Captain America, the First Avengers, just like little by little fall in love with this character. Just because who Steve is as a person. But yeah, I love that scene. And Peggy was right behind him too. I don't know if you noticed, Peggy was like about to jump on it herself. After she saw him doing it. I would say one of my favorite scenes, because I'm trying to rank them like to the top, so from the bottom, was that alleyway scene, when he's getting beat up the first time he ever says, "I can do this all day." That was awesome. Because he was protecting and defending, the fallen soldiers, and this dude was disrespecting them, and he was like, well, I forgot what he said, but I loved it. I was like, hell yeah, tell that bastard shut up.
Yeah. And it's funny because when Dr. Erskine in that movie later on asked him, "Why do you do this? You want to kill Nazis?" And he's like, "No, I just don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from." And again, one of those defining moments where that movie was so good to establish who Steve Rogers was as a character.
You brought up the best point, that movie, the first Avenger movie, really established that Steve Rogers is, more than anything, a good man. And that's why he can be the hero that everybody admires and be the leader that the Avengers always needed. Because as smart as Banner is and as cool as Tony is, they could never lead the way Steve can. And he's had some of the best. I think he's had the best trilogy out of all the MCU characters. I like it better than the Iron Man one and the Thor one. And he's had some really, really awesome moments. Even the simple things, like, I think it was in Winter Soldier, like he just jumps out of the airplane or whatever through the back while everybody else is using parachutes. Like, just little things like that. It's a big deal, but it's like, well, I'm off. And he just like casually just throws himself off the plane. And by the time he's kicking everybody's ass, everybody's like starting to land. It's like he's been here for 5 minutes, throwing the shield around like a frisbee. And now you guys are just getting here. So just little things like that just show like how dope he is. It's not even significant, but it's just like just to think about it, like, yo, he just jumped off the plane and landed in the water. Just like to me, so little things like that just add to the character. And then there's like the big moments, like the fighting in the elevator, or taking out the jet. Like there's so many. He's done a lot of big things too. So.
Yeah, that was another awesome one in Winter Soldier when he took out the Quinjet. He's driving in the motorcycle, and he just jumps off and takes it out with the shield, starts throwing it to specific pinpoints to take it out. So that was a really good one.
The dialogue between him and Nick Fury in Winter Soldier, right before Winter Soldier takes a shot at him, that was like in that movie I was confused, like where their relationship stood, if Nick Fury was even on the good side. We know he's a hero, but it was very well portrayed, like you're not meant to know for sure, so the ability that Steve was able to like have his defenses like way up here and then bring it down because he just trusted in them, he trusted in people. That's what Steve does. He believes in people. That whole movie is about his faith in Nick Fury, and trusting him. And
Black Widow.
And Black Widow, true, and she's always lying. So, like his ability to he loves people and he trusts them. And then, like how far he went to protect them. Like, dude, that whole scene of him chasing Winter Soldier, this dude busted through a whole wall. Like it was nothing. It was awesome. I didn't see that happening at all. When I remember in the movie theater when I first saw that, like the first time he like bumps into his shoulder into the wall and continues to run. Then he straight up breaks through a wall. That was awesome, dude. And then does it again through a window.
Yeah.
That was
that
epic,
was great.
man. Yeah, I think one of the top fights was definitely the last one in Endgame against when he picks up. And it's also one of the best moments of Captain America is when he picks up Thor's hammer. And he starts beating the crap out of Thor. Out of Thanos with Thor's hammer. It's epic, man. I love that scene.
Epic. That was really, really epic.
Yeah, he gave Thanos a run for his money.
Yeah.
With no training.
Yeah.
First time he picks up the hammer, he knows how to use it. My man called down lightning and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like he had the lightning going. Like he almost had Thanos. He had him on the ropes.
Yeah.
Another great small moment that was really cool because I actually have a UFC fighter like GSP was that fight in Winter Soldier where he tells him, like, I thought you were more than the shield, He puts the shield in his back, takes his helmet off, and takes him out. And it was sick because they showed, like, Steve is a well-trained fighter, but he's a warrior at heart, too. He's not just a good person. Like, he's the actual warrior. He did it with honor.
I have two more good moments that I like. One is quick, and it's kind of just funny between him and Falcon when they'd be training in the mornings, and he'd run doing all these laps around him, and like just how fast he could run. Because like later on, you see how fast he could really, really run. Like, he's going as fast as cars in some of these movies.
Yeah.
Going back to earlier, you asked about a good fight, Cap versus Spider-Man in Civil War at the airport. That was great because it was like the first time Spidey's in amongst the Avengers, and we're seeing him in action. And, he got a tough one because there's no way he's beating Cap, who's already established and this kid is a rookie. And Cap ends up winning, and it was just great back and forth between them with the dialogue.
Yeah.
And Spidey thinking that he could take Tony's advice, like, oh, he said go for your legs and all this stuff. And then the way they finished it, where he's like, oh, you got heart, kid. Where are you from? He's like, Queens. Says Brooklyn, like you can't mess with him.
Yeah.
Spidey's he's really strong, but at that point, that's all he was really strong. Whereas him being a soldier, he uses tactics. Like he's smart in his approach, which is why he's a good leader.
Is one that I want to make sure we put out there is Civil War, where he's fighting Iron Man, and him and Bucky are teaming up against Iron Man. They're kind of throwing the shield back and forth, bouncing it, hitting him. And after Iron Man takes out Bucky, you see that one scene straight out of the comic book. It was like a panel where Iron Man is just shooting. Is it the repulsors or the unibeam?
The unibeam.
The unibeam, right? Yeah, he's shooting that at Cap. Cap has the shield, and he's coming towards him. And then you have like that freeze moment where you see all the lights. Oh man,
that was a whole beautiful scene.
Yeah, before we kind of get to the top Captain America moment, which I think we're all going to agree on that one, I did want to mention another moment where it defines Steve, and that's at the end of the first Avenger, where he's, after he finishes fighting the Red Skull, and he's in the plane, and he has nowhere to go, and he has to crash the plane, and he has just like this really beautiful moment with Peggy where he knows his duty, he knows he has to sacrifice himself, and he's telling Peggy like, hey, save me a dance, I'll be there. She tells him, oh, next Saturday at 8, and you see him crashing the plane, sacrificing himself, not like giving up on the woman he loves. But then later on in that movie where you see him in the future and Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. surround him in Times Square, I think Nick Fury asked him like, what's going on? Are you okay? Or he's like, oh, I had a date. And that just describes Steve's personal sacrifice to do the right thing, right? And to me, if there is a runner-up to the best moment in Captain America, it has to be the ending of Endgame, when you see Cap in the 50s with Peggy Carter in the house, and the music is playing, and they're inside just having that slow dance moment. Like, that was the culmination of his entire storyline. Everything from the very beginning of Cap's story to the very end of Endgame, where you see him dancing with Peggy, that's what it led up to. They had the best relationship in the whole MCU. Like, that was the power couple. And to see them having that last dance, that was just great. That was just great.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes that was also like super touching was Old Man Steve. The first time I got to see Old Man Steve, in that conversation that he has with Sam, that was awesome, man. Looking back, when I first saw it, I was a little like, oh wow, he's leaving the shield to Sam, which I expected it to be Sam or Bucky. And looking back, like, it makes a ton of sense for him to choose Sam, because Sam is the heart. Sam is a regular person, who was able to help him at his worst, while Bucky was just going through so much at the time, although he is a super soldier. So it's cool, man, to see that going full circle, and then Steve leaves his legacy with Sam.
Are you guys ready to, announce the top moment with Captain America? Because it was just a moment, 10 years in the making. We were all waiting for this moment. They teased us during Age of Ultron at the end.
Yeah.
Even Chris Evans, if you've seen the behind the scenes scene where he's about to say the phrase, he looks at the camera and goes, ah. So he didn't even film it. He didn't even say it when they were filming that movie. But what's the top moment, guys?
Avengers Assemble.
Yeah. That was such a great build-up. And I don't know if you've seen the reaction video online where that moment plays out and the audience is going buck wild, and all you hear is Avengers. And what was cool about it? He played it smooth too. He could have like yelled assemble, but he was like, assemble. Yeah. And the crowd went wild. But give me your thought, guys. What did that scene do for you? How excited were you? And do you agree that is the top moment for Captain America?
100%. That is the top moment. We've waited so long to hear him say that. I wanted to hear him say it in the first Avengers movie, but I love the build up to it. It made sense for the character. I wanted to hear him yell it like a war cry, but it doesn't take away from the moment. The way he said it, but that's also a memes moment, because there's been so many memes after that where he's like, Avengers, and he whispers assemble, and then in the background, what? What? Everybody kind of started running because Thor started screaming. He did it.
Well, keep in mind though, right? Keep in mind that all the Avengers had earpieces, and then when Doctor Strange teleported them, he put magical earpieces in everybody else. So everybody heard the whisper. That was the whisper that was heard around the world, man.
I think it was played perfectly. Like the way he said the line, to me, it just works for that scene. I mean, he could have yelled it, but I think this worked regardless. And it seemed like a more dramatic, like comic book actual feel to it than him just screaming. And
Yeah.
the way the score of the film is building up to that moment is perfect. Like the music really sold that scene too.
Yeah. Yeah, because that you're right. That's a really good point, because the way the music was playing, it was kind of toning down, where you have that moment of silence, and then you hear him say assemble, and that's where the music starts blasting, everybody starts screaming. And I think if they were already mid-run and he's screaming Avengers assemble while they're running, then I think it would have made sense. But I think because there was this pause, right, there was this clearing of the dust. You know, Thanos was lined up with his people. They were all there waiting for the charge. To your point again, the music was just kind of going down, and he had that burst, Avengers, like he called everyone to attention. Everyone stopped, right? This is Captain America we're talking about. When Cap speaks, you stop, you pause, and you listen. And all he had to say was, grab the hammer and then assemble. Because that was an awesome shot. Like he caught the hammer and was like, he who may hold his hammer, assemble. Oh, Mjolnir was transferring the sound. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it
was. But that was just a great moment.
Yeah, dude, I agree. And it like looking back and you start putting all that stuff together, it's like, dude, he had trust from a king. You know, Black Panther, King of Wakanda. He had trust from a god, Thor. Like like Doctor Strange, like everyone trusts him. Everyone knows who Steve is as a person and as a hero, and we've seen that development. So it was really cool to have that trust and that he was able to lead all those people into war. It was awesome.
Yeah, Black Panther worked out for him in Infinity War when he said, "Get this man a shield."
Yeah.
Dude, I love that too. Like that thing was huge for me personally. Like in Winter Soldier, where you see that, and then in Civil War, where you see that development between Black Panther and Captain America's relationship, that was awesome. It was very subtle, but it was awesome the way it was done. By the end of the movie, this dude was like, I trust you. And there was that equal, you know, friendship and that bond, so much so that he trusted him with his best friend's life. He was like, I'm going to leave you with Bucky.
Yeah, and he opened the door to Cap. Like,
no
outsider had ever been to Wakanda.
He knew how to come and leave. Like, he knew exactly where to go. So that little subtle stuff was awesome.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining me on this 4th of July to talk about the most patriotic superhero of all time. Sorry, Superman. I know you stand for truth, justice, but you gave up the American way. You made a point of that. So make mine Steve Rogers, Captain America. That is going to be a wrap for us. Thank you for joining us with this video. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a fun time. If you like this video, drop a thumbs up. Feel free to share. If you want to stay up to date with our content, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Until next time, that is a wrap for us. Later, fellas.